Another happy afternoon to you, YouTube. Hope everybody's having fun being in lockdown. Um, I don't have much space on my phone left, so I'm going to try and get through all this stuff real quick, but I've been up to more stuff in between all the madness over switching coronavirus bookings over at work and all the other nonsense. It's actually not that busy outside of work because you can't do anything anymore. So I went to Chapters the other day to get a new book, and there was like literally 3 cars in the parking lot. It was like a ghost town. I'm like, oh my god. But anywho, first things first. Finished book 3 of the Trials of Apollo series called The Burning Maze. As this picks up, the story continues. Apollo has been sent to Earth in a mortal form by Zeus for his transgressions, and he's in a pudgy little guy named Lester Papadopoulos, and he's continuing on this quest to free the oracles around the world that have been kind of attacked by this mysterious triumvirate that's causing all these problems for Apollo and all the other demigods at Camp Jupiter and Camp Half-Blood and all that. So as the story starts off, Apollo, his earthly overseer Meg, and Grover Underwood the satyr are in the middle of the burning maze, which is actually the labyrinth, but there's a section of it that's just filled with fire and other such dangers. And they finally navigate their way out of it and pop up in this wild area of California. And Grover says, "I'm home." So it's just this expanse of desert where some dryads live, and there's these mysterious kind of almost silo type of buildings that are set down into the ground, and at the middle of one of them is like a well of water. And Meg has a really uneasy feeling about it, and it turns out this is where she grew up with her father before Nero, her evil stepfather, engineered his demise and such. And when they get there, Coach Hedge, who we know from previous adventures in the other series of Rick Riordan's, he is the gym teacher satyr who is like all gung-ho and always wants to fight. He's off in town at a surplus store buying stuff, and his wife Melly is kind of concerned that he isn't back yet. So Apollo and his friends go and check out, and they find Hedge at the store, but the store is being overseen by this dude who gives Apollo an uneasy feeling. Turns out he's working for these emperors, and he attacks them. And as they fight and then get back to camp, Apollo's having these picking up on pieces of conversation from the bad guys, also having these dreams and visions where it's all kind of coming together. And he finally figures out that it's the tyrannical Roman emperor Caligula from ancient times that is one of the other parts of this evil triumvirate, and he's even more terrified now that he knows it's him because he's such a bad guy. So their adventure continues. They end up they know they have to get to the middle of the burning maze because that's where the oracle lies that they need to free. So they go to see Piper McLean, who her and her boyfriend Jason Grace had made it to or at least Jason had made it to the oracle in the middle of the maze, but they have since split up. So Piper tries to lead them there, but the witch Medea intercepts them, and Apollo gets more feelings about what's she involved with this now, right? So eventually they return back from there, gain more information, and eventually contact Jason to lead them to where Caligula is, because he has a feeling he knows where he will show up. So they're off to these docks, and soon enough Caligula and his fleet of yachts stream in, and Jason, Piper, Meg, and Apollo storm his ships undercover at first to try and find a magical pair of shoes that will apparently get them through the maze without any trouble. And so things go wrong. They split up. The shoes are gained, but the Caligula intercepts the other two, and Jason ultimately is killed in the action that sees his friends escape. So Piper's devastated. They're all upset about Jason's death, but they forge onwards and regroup, and eventually they make a final assault on the maze, confronting Medea and Caligula, and trying to free the oracle and continue on with their adventures as to bringing down this evil triumvirate's plans. So Rick Riordan's stories are always full of humor. They're always full of action and suspense, but they're, even though there's a lot of serious consequences in them, they're always pretty lighthearted, right? So they're really fast, quick, easy reads. All the God action in it, because I took myth in university. Like, it's fun to read about all these characters put in these strange modern settings and stuff. So they're just super easy books to read and a lot of fun. So I'm actually working on the fourth one right now, so that'll be one of my next things. Next up, oh my goodness, Zombieland Double Tap. Finally watched this, and oh boy is it fantastic. Takes place 10 years after the first movie. The foursome, Tallahassee, Columbus, Wichita, and Little Rock, have holed up at the White House. That is their new place of residence, and they're going about daily life as domestically routinely as you can in Zombieland, I guess. Soon enough, there is problems though. Little Rock is getting restless. She wants to meet kids her own age. And then Wichita gets scared off one night when Columbus proposes to her with the Hope Diamond, no less. So they both are kind of spooked about stuff. And the next night, they leave a note for the boys and take off. So a month passes, and Columbus is still upset about it. Tallahassee's over it, of course, or at least seemingly he is. And one day, while investigating an abandoned mall, they meet another survivor, a young hot blonde named Madison, who has survived by staying in one of the mall freezers. And so Columbus, against Tallahassee's best wishes, invites her back to the White House, and they end up doing it. But then the shit hits the fan when a couple nights, or that same night actually, the boys hear a noise in the garage. They go to investigate. Wichita is back in the garage looking for guns and transportation because Little Rock has met a guy from Berkeley, her own age, and has taken off with him. So the boys are like, okay, we'll help you. We'll get Little Rock back. We'll reunite our family. But then it's complicated, of course, as Madison joins them, and Wichita finds out that Columbus boned her. So it's all this hilarity as they try and make their way to find Little Rock and gain transportation to get there and stuff. So they have to go to Graceland. That's where Little Rock and Berkeley were supposedly going. They don't find them there, but at a small hotel, they find the hotel owner named Nevada, who helps them in their future journeys. And they meet some other people too, some funny ones, that an odd couple just like Tallahassee and Columbus, who end up becoming zombies, and they have to fight them off. And but it's just this race to catch up with Little Rock and get her back, and make sure she's safe. And the end destination is a place called what's it called? It's like not Xanadu, but it's like a peaceful Babylon. That's it. And so it's apparently this commune named Babylon where there's no weapons, they're fenced in, and they're safe from zombies. And that's where kind of the story leads everybody to the end, and that's where the big final fight takes place. So people said they didn't like this. It's just basically a remake of the first one, and it kind of, yeah, but also kind of not. I thought they introduced some really funny new characters. And I actually, almost in ways, I like the second one kind of better than the first one. I thought Madison was hilarious. And then a couple of the other new ads were great characters. And the action and the hilarity was just as great as the first one. So they're like neck and neck for me right now. Like, I like them kind of equally. So don't believe bad reviews from people. Next up, I don't have a case for this one because we watched it as a download, but Frozen. The movie from 2013. We had never seen it, but when James got in the show, we had to watch it, which unfortunately his show run has been canceled due to COVID. So we did get to see a couple dress rehearsal shows and got the gist of it. And then they did do one show that they tape recorded because they got permission due to everything that's going on from Disney to do it. And we actually got to sit in and watch that one that was being recorded. So it was kind of a neat experience outside of the norm. But so after seeing that, we were like, well, we should probably finally watch the movie. The story: in an ancient kingdom named Arendelle, two young sisters, Elsa and Anna, are growing up, totally love each other as young kids. And Elsa has this magical ability to create and control ice and snow, and Anna's just infatuated by it. And one night when they are out in the halls after bed playing, it gets out of hand, and Elsa ends up hitting Anna in the head with a ice shot, and they have to call for their mom and dad. the mom and dad take them to these hidden folk troll like people who fix Anna, and at the same time just take out all the memories of Elsa's magic, so to help control the situation. And from that day forward, they also separate the girls. So they grow up, and many years pass, and during those years later on, the king and queen perish in an accident at sea and drown. And as Elsa is approaching, I guess, legal age, whatever that would be in Arendelle, she's about to be coronated the queen of Arendelle. So for one day and one day only, they open up the gates to the castle. People come in the hordes to watch the new queen be anointed, and finally Anna gets to come face to face with Elsa again. And for the longest time during the day, they're loving each other, everything's going off great, until Anna meets Prince Hans of the Southern Isles, and the two become infatuated with each other. And later on that day, after only hours, he proposes to her, and she says yes. And when they ask for Elsa's permission, she denies them, gets upset, closes the party, and her magic gets the best of her, and people kind of see Elsa for what she is suddenly. And Anna realizes, oh God, this is why we were separated. And Elsa basically turns Arendelle and all the surrounding lands into an icy winter land. And then she escapes off into the night. So Anna, feeling like she's the only one who can possibly talk to Elsa and get her back, takes off after her and leaves Hans in charge of Arendelle in the meantime. Along the way, she meets an ice harvester named Kristoff and his reindeer Sven, and they also come upon a living snowman named Olaf, who is actually a creation of Elsa's that was inspired by when they used to play as children. And she gets Kristoff to kind of guide her up to the ice palace that Elsa has created. So eventually they get there after some hardships, and as the adventure unfolds, Kristoff and Anna kind of develop this relationship, even though they may not know exactly what it is or what it means. And eventually they get to Elsa and confront her, and Anna gets zapped again, this time in the heart. So Kristoff runs to the hidden folk with Anna, tries to get them to fix her, but they say, oh, a shot to the heart is a lot harder to fix than a shot to the head. Only an act of true love can mend this, and you got to do it fast, because soon enough she's going to turn into ice. So Kristoff then races her back to Arendelle to find Hans, to get him to do a act of true love. I don't know if you could just do those on demand, but and then it all culminates as they get back to Arendelle, and other factors that have been unraveling while Anna's been away kind of play into the end and make it a bit of a surprise ending and such. So it was a great movie, and I always know that when they talk about making movies and animation, ice and water are always really hard to film with and create. So this movie looks fantastic, so you got to figure the amount of work that went into it is pretty substantial. So but great movie. Liked it a lot more than I thought I would, because it wasn't really in my wheelhouse when it first came out, but now for sure we'll watch the second one whenever we get a chance. So next up, we also finished season 11 of The Simpsons. 22 episodes over 4 discs. People have said they lost touch with The Simpsons when it turned into like every episode was like a musical and stuff. I'm not sure when that happens in the series, because I stopped watching The Simpsons many years ago, not because I disliked the show, but just because it was like becoming an adult and having a family and a house, and it took away a lot of my time. I don't like being an adult, to be honest. And so I just kind of, every Sunday night at 8 o'clock or whatever it was to get that time every week and watch it one episode at a time every week, it just didn't happen, right? So so it's nice to go back now and watch full seasons on DVD and just do the whole experience, right? So so season 11 was still, in my books, was fantastic, just every bit as good as all the seasons that came before it. There's we get to see Moe get plastic surgery to fix his ugly mug. Manjula and Apu have their octuplets. Otto proposes to a girl, and they're gonna get married, but he calls it off at the last second when she makes him choose between her and his medal. And Bart gets addicted to this like a Ritalin kind of drug called Focusin, Homer starts a motorcycle club called the Hell's Satans, and a whole bunch of other stuff too. But the two episodes that kind of speak out for me, that I remember most from this particular season. First one, this is the season where Maud, Ned's wife, dies off the Flanders, and it's a pretty funny one because they go to a new racetrack that's just opened up in Springfield, and like Homer's just being a boor as usual, and he's up in the stands, and the t-shirt girls have their guns out, and he's like, he paints a big target on his bare belly and says, "Get me with the t-shirts, girls." And so they just fire a barrage of t-shirts at him, and at the last second he stoops down to pick something up off the ground, and Maud's just coming up the stairs behind him, like right at the back of the high bleachers, and they blast her off the end of the bleachers, and that's how Maud Flanders, meets her end, right? So I remember at the time, like, a character dying like that when I first saw this episode back when it first aired, it was like, holy cow, like they killed somebody, right? So so that was a big moment that I remember. The other one is when Homer ends up having to escape the country for, I can't remember what he did, but he ends up going to like South Pacific, like Micronesia somewhere, and he becomes a missionary, and gives advice to this native tribe that he totally ruins everything, of course, but he ends up sitting in a hammock all the time, and he has these like poisonous toads, and he licks them all the time, and then his eyes go all big like he's all stoned and stuff, and he just keeps sitting there and licking, and it's just one of those funny moments that is just a tiny brief part of an episode, but that you just remember for the rest of your life for whatever reason. It was just one of those funny things, and so when I saw that episode again, I was killing myself. So next up, another book. I should have done this at the start. This one, Captain Marvel, Higher, Faster, Further, or Higher, Further, Faster, sorry. It's a prequel to Captain Marvel. It's like it takes place sometime probably in the mid to late 80s, I think, and Carol Danvers is on her way to the U.S. Air Force Academy to start her training there, her first year of training, and with the ultimate goal of becoming a combat pilot. On the way, she gets, while driving to the academy in her Mustang, she sees this girl who has been sideswiped by some douche and ends up chasing him down and confronting him, and then the cops show up, and the cop's like, you can't just go doing stuff like that, as much as it might have felt good to help this girl. But the cop lets her off with a warning and writes on the ticket, "Let yourself learn." So then Carol she doesn't take it to heart immediately. She's not sure exactly what it means. But as she gets to the academy, she suffers the usual fate of a woman, in the late 80s going to the Air Force Academy. All the guys don't take her seriously. Commanding officers are being pricks to her. And they basically tell her outright, you have no chance to ever fly combat, right? So she goes about trying to be the best of the best simply to prove these people wrong. As she goes along, she meets her best friend Maria Rambeau, and they're tentative at first, but then they develop this great relationship. Some of the men in her unit don't take them seriously, but eventually the ice is broken there, and they befriend each other, and they become this perfectly working unit that excels at every competition they enter against all the other squads. And in order to join the try out for the Flying Falcons, they think they're toast when they find out, we have to have a civilian pilot's license first, and they don't know where they're going to do that. But then Maria knows some people in the area that own aircraft in a hangar, and they can get their hours there, so they start doing this on their off days. So it's the story of their whole year at the academy, and how Carol and Maria try and make their dream happen and adapt to changes along the way that they need to, because certain avenues get cut off and they can't fight it head on, so they have to adjust their plan and find other ways around it. And during this process, Carol lets herself learn, and she comes to peace with herself that she's not doing this anymore to prove this officer wrong, or to prove to all the men in the world that women are just as good. She's doing it for herself because she grew up as a kid wanting to fly, loving the thought of flying, and that's why she continues to do it at the end of the year. She gets through all these personal struggles and finds her focus and her drive. And so it's just this story of how Carol became the person that she was when she went to the academy and stuff. Last thing, a video game for the PS4. It was a PlayStation Plus free download from a few months back. Monster Energy Supercross, the official video game. It's basically just arena dirt bike racing, there's not too many modes to it. There's a career mode and a season mode, which is basically the same thing. Only on career you can keep it going. But yeah, you just go. You play a season. You can either do East Coast, West Coast, or the big circuit, which combines both. And they make stops in different cities, and you just you race. You gain points based on your final position, and if you have enough points at the end of the year to take it all, you win the championship. So. I reviewed one for the Switch a while back, the MXGP, and they look like they're made by the exact same company. There's so many similar aspects and looks to the game. But this older one for the PS4 that takes place inside of the arenas and not the outside one across Europe and stuff for the Switch, I like the PS4 one a lot better. It just seems a lot. The controls are better. They handle better, and it's more fun too. I like being in the arenas with the big jumps and stuff rather than out on an outside course and that sort of thing. So it was a really fun game. It's one dimensional in that, you know, once you've played through a circuit, like, okay, what do I do now, right? Like, it's just, unless you love dirt bike racing that much that you could just play it over and over and over again, you're really done with it pretty fast once you kind of beat you know, the season mode on all the different circuits, right? So but totally worth the play, especially seeing as it was a free download. So I had a lot of fun with it while I had it going on. So yeah, that's yeah, and I don't know how many minutes I'm at right now, but those are the 6 things I have been up to lately, and I will be back with more stuff in the coming weeks, and especially if we're quarantined for much longer, because I'm gonna need stuff to do. So until next time, so long.